Excess deaths. Is the New Zealand government guilty of manslaughter? Cutting to the chase. The world had a COVID pandemic, followed by global lockdowns, mass vaccinations, plenty of deaths, plenty of recoveries, and plenty of conspiracy stories of which plenty still abound, including the cause of the above-average non-COVID-related excess deaths. COVID hit the world in 2019, was basically under control by 2021, but excess deaths continued unrelentingly onward bound, right up to today, the 23rd of June 2023. The informative YouTube site, the links in the description, by Dr. John Campbell, frequently presents enormous facts on excess deaths around the world. Equally so, John Campbell often mentions the fact that governments and the media remain silent on the issue of excess deaths. This deafening silence by world leaders and the media can only lead to even more conspiracy theories, but in this case, such conspiracy theories may in fact have a dark, sinister underbelly. Governments may want you to believe in the most obvious conspiracy theory, that the excess deaths are caused by the COVID vaccination itself, because it detracts from their real agenda. Namely, the latest far-left woke, diversity, inclusion, and equity ideology, or DIE for short, that is presently sweeping the Western world. However, the facts show that the excess deaths affect all age groups, from the very young to the very old, from the healthy to the comorbidity sick, and also from the vaccinated to the unvaccinated. These facts alone would tend to suggest that there is something not so obvious afoot. Most people will be aware of the DIE ideology being rammed down people's throats, such as transgenderism, indigenous rights, critical race theory, and so on. Part of this experimental political ideology is medical selection based on ethnicity and other non-medical factors, all rolled into an equity algorithm to determine the priority for any given patient's healthcare. The DIE ideology is rife in the USA, Australia, New Zealand, UK, and many other Western countries. And, lo and behold, so are excess deaths rife in these countries as well. The net result of the DIE medical selection algorithm is that many people, perhaps thousands of people, will be prioritized ahead in the queue based on non-medical equity reasons. Placed ahead of people who may have more serious medical conditions, which can ultimately have only one conclusion. Such action could only lead to above-average excess deaths overall. Almost certainly, governments in the West are pushing the political DIE ideology, diversity, inclusion and equity, which is causing excess deaths, hence government silence.
My question is to the Minister of Health and reads as follows. What are the subspecialties to which the waitlist equity adjuster was being rolled out in the wider northern region, and how, if at all, is ethnicity being used as a factor in prioritising access to health treatment outside of the equity adjuster tool?
The Honourable Dr Aisha Virrell.
Mr Speaker, in answer to the first part of the question, aside from the Auckland district defined by the former DHB boundary, I am advised that Te Tai Tokerau district has implemented the tool for urology and orthopaedic waitlists, and Waitemata has recently implemented the tool in gynaecology. I am advised that the equity adjuster is not used for acute care or cancer treatment. The equity adjuster is applied to planned care, previously referred to as elective care. In answer to the second part of the question, I am advised that Te Whatuora considers all factors when assessing people's needs for care. Most importantly, this is primarily based on clinical need, as determined by the clinicians involved, but other factors are taken into account, including ethnicity from time to time.
Supplementary. Is she aware that in November 2020, Cancer and Blood Services at Auckland DHB had a policy to, quote, reduce inequity for Māori and Pacific peoples by putting them at the front of the prioritisation queue, end quote? And can she give a guarantee that ethnicity is not being used to prioritise the queue for cancer services in any Auckland hospitals?
I thank the member for that question. The minute that member is referring to, or the document that member is referring to, incorrectly said that that program of work had started. It in fact never occurred.
Supplementary. What then does she say to the medical professionals confidentially telling ACT that the practice is still going on and staff know about it?
Well, Mr Speaker, those medical professionals have avenues for raising their concerns, if any, within Te Whatu Ora, and I note that a number of health leaders, including the Royal College of Surgeons, have come out in support of the equity adjuster as applied to planned care.
Supplementary.
Brooke van Velden.
Is the Minister aware that medical practitioners are afraid of speaking up on this issue, such as the surgeon who texts to say, quote, "My concern is the lack of consultation from Te Whatu Ora and we are unable to express our concerns to the powers. Many of us feel this is wrong, but there is no avenue to express it, let alone change it." However, this person refuses to be identified for fear of retribution.
Mr Speaker, I have worked with surgeons for multiple years of my professional life, and the courage it takes to be a surgeon is the courage to stand up for your convictions. So I encourage that person, if they've got an issue, to bring it forward and to take that up also with the professional leaders who have come out in support of that process for planned care.
Supplementary.
Supplementary.
Is she aware that in February 2022, Auckland DHB said, quote, "Our focus for planned care is prioritisation of long-waiting patients over 200 days and long-waiting Māori and Pacific patients over 120 days, or did this also not happen?"
Mr Speaker, at Auckland Hospital, that approach would have been replaced with the equity adjuster.